Legendary football coach Vince Lombardi once said, "Winning is not a sometimes thing, it's an all the time thing. You don't win once in a while. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing." Hello, talking tacticians. FTC have strung together 7 wins on the trot. Are they finally in the habit of doing the right things all the time, regardless of the game state? Or is this streak just a matter of good timing? Let's talk about it together. Hey, everybody, welcome into Talking Tactics with Coach Goff. I am Coach Brad Goff, and this is a show where we have lots of all the time habits, but unfortunately, being good at podcasting might be just one of our sometimes things. FC Cincinnati picked up their 7th win in a row on Saturday, coming from behind to take the lead, then needing to retake that lead 2 more times to earn an incredible 4-3 win over Toronto Football Club. We're going to talk about all 7 of those goals, how good the offense looked, even without playmaker Lucho Acosta having, the best of matches, but also some concerning moments of sloppy play defensively. And we're going to talk about all this and more with the one and only TST legend in the making, Justin Hoyt. Justin, how you doing today?
Fantastic, coach. I'm excited. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. Excited for the tournament. Also, amazing to get the chance to represent, we'll say, Cincinnati. Getting my boots back on. But before all that, coach, I must say, really impressed with this team. Really impressed with the way Cincinnati performing. Another victory. Okay, it was a tough game, but they come away from home with 3 points. It was a great weekend. How are you, coach? I know you wasn't feeling too well, but you on the mend? You feeling a bit better now?
Yeah, listeners, what Justin is alluding to is I was all set to record Talking Tactics this past week, and then I went down hard with, I think, my first ever case of COVID. So I basically was in bed for a few days. I eventually texted Justin, was like, "Hey, man, sorry I didn't get in touch about recording, but I was basically not awake for a few days straight." So sorry about that, listeners, but that just means that you get even more excitement from us today. Justin, any listeners that happen to tune in on YouTube will see just like nothing behind me because we are in the process of moving. I'm going to be back into Cincinnati soon, living there. You're going to be in Cincinnati. So it is good days. Another thing that makes it good days for all of Cincinnati, mainly just you and I coming to the city. But another small thing is the 7-game win streak. And I want to talk to you about what it's like in the locker room during winning streaks because I'm sure you don't remember this because it wasn't that significant, but you just happened to be part of the most famous FCC winning streak to date, which is 23 matches unbeaten in the 2018 season. Incredible,
Oh,
legendary, 23 matches. Now, that did include 6 draws in those 23 matches,
that's all
but
right.
also exactly, and also a 10-game win streak. So,
Mhm.
this team is sitting at 7. What's it feel like in the locker room? What's it feel like on the training pitch when you're in the middle of an unbeaten run like this, Justin?
I feel like confidence is just sky high. It's hit the roof. Everyone's buzzing. Everyone wants to be training. Everyone wants to be around each other. And I feel you have that momentum. You go into games having that feeling that no matter if you go a goal behind, you have that confidence that we're going to come back and score a goal. And I just feel it's just big on confidence. And being part of that team that I was in, we knew we had the trust in each other and had that trust that each other can go out and do a performance. You know, if one person didn't perform, we had the rest of the guys that could perform. We had players that would do create something out of nothing can win. It is the atmosphere is just amazing. And when you're on that street, coach, you never really want it to end. And I feel the way we performed then is similar to the same, I would say, consistency, the same atmosphere, the same feeling around the club, even with the fans. I feel this team has got that. So can this team now currently go on to do great things? I think it can. It's got the players, it's got the coaching staff, and I feel they have the togetherness not only as a team but with the fans as well, and that's a great sign. And even when teams come to TKO Stadium, they're frightened, and they know it's going to be a tough game. So it is. The atmosphere is just amazing in the locker room, coach. The banter's flying. Let's just put it that way. But it is you have that that extra edge. I tell you that with the confidence.
Yeah, you talked about it there with the fact that people step up and score when others aren't and like perform. If somebody's having an enough night, the
Mhm.
whole team picks them up. And I think that's what we're seeing for this team. And I want to talk a lot about like some of those different pieces and moving around. But first, I want to let the listeners know we're sponsored by Apollo Home. Give them a call if you have any HVAC, plumbing, or electrical needs. And while you're doing that and have your phone out, make sure you head on over to the socials and give me a follow. I am at FC Cincy Tac Talk. And as always, you can drop us a note at Cincy Soccer Talk or in the electronic mail slots, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let's hit the film room. All right, Justin, let's get right to it. Joe Braun, Jeff Tebbets, a couple others got in touch and wanted us to talk about Luca Orshano and Brett Halsey swapping sides.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um, yeah, so not only did Orshano obviously have a fantastic game offensively. We'll talk about the defensive side
Yeah.
later. Uh, but it was a really interesting thing because we haven't seen Pat Noonan do in-game tactical shifts like this that often. It was a pretty big move to all of a sudden invert his outside backs.
Mm.
And what I saw was, both teams were high pressing out of the gate, but Toronto was pressing out of like a 4-3-2-1 and using their two number 10s to press FC Cincinnati's outside center backs, which meant the TFC outside backs were able to press hard on the FCC wing backs and not let them turn at all and play up the line. So Halsey and Orshano, when they would receive the ball, they'd have a defender on their back. They'd be facing their own defense. And their only option was really to pass backwards or maybe try to flick a quick pass square if there happened to be a midfielder open. And so what Noonan did is he swapped Luca and Halsey right after Toronto scored their opening goal. And the interesting thing here, Justin, is I don't know what you saw after that, but I don't think it really helped them in the build out. It wasn't like these players were helping progress the ball anymore or receiving the ball. It didn't change that core problem. But what it did mean is their first touch just put them facing the more of the field because naturally wanting to come in on their natural foot. And then that meant if they were playing square, they didn't always have to play, directly square. They could play a little bit more forward. They
Mhm.
could play a little more quickly because it wasn't trying to play with that weaker foot. So talk about as an outside back, have you ever played in an inverted role like that? And what does that do to your brain? How different is that to receive the ball on a touch line, for you playing on the left side instead of the right?
Yeah, when I first come to Cincinnati and during my career uh, through the various clubs, I've had to play on the left hand side, being a natural right sided player. Normally, only use my left leg for standing. I'll be honest, it is quite difficult, especially when you have to receive the ball on the opposite side and have to open out and try and play with that side. It is very unnatural. But I feel what the benefits of having the inverted and playing on the other side using your stronger foot is that I feel you can open up the play more. You can play inside, you're not just limited to playing down the line. You can play inside, coming on the inside. And I feel using your right foot and an inverted side, you have more options on the ball if the options are available. And I feel it's easier that way. Defensively, it's difficult because it's now a different side of your body. But I feel there is benefits to having them swap over. Obviously, Oriano showed that, but it is a difficult change, coach. I must admit, I didn't enjoy it. I did not enjoy it first because of the receiving side of it. But there is some games where I felt, you know what, I'm actually enjoying this because I can link up, I can come inside more often, and I'm on my stronger foot. As soon as I come in on front of goal, I can whip it top corner, which once or twice I did do. Once or twice it hit it hit the fans in the background. I feel it has its benefits, but it does have its disadvantages. But I would say, all in all, we must have to agree with Pat Noonan here with the change.
Yeah, clearly it did something right. I said that I didn't think it really helps them building out much, and I would stick with that. But what you
Yeah.
mentioned there about when you're coming in and heading towards goal, and that's where this really paid off is in the
Yeah.
offensive third when these players receive the ball, their first touch. We talked over and over on this podcast about FCC wanting to get this action heading towards zone 14. So again, listeners, zone 14 is basically the top of the 18-yard box where that half circle is, right? That if you drew a rectangle around around that. That's zone 14. That's where most goal scoring actions come from. And FCC loves to get players running at and through zone 14. And what this swap did, it meant that Halsey and Orishano, every time they came inside on the ball, were running right at zone 14. So you saw in the 31st minute, Brett Halsey stepped in and won the ball on the press and immediately dribbled inside right at that zone 14. He played Dado, who gave it a little bit of a touch to his outside and then tried to curl a ball in at the back post and just missed the target. Moment of danger. In the 40th minute, there's a ball into Lucho on the right, in the right half space, and he lays it underneath to an underlapping Orishano, who again, underlapping, so dribbling inside straight at zone 14. He takes it all the way to the edge of the box and shoots just wide. You probably should have laid it off to Kevin Kelsey, but we won't worry about that. Another moment of danger. And that all builds us up to FC Cincinnati's first goal. We're going to talk about these goals a little bit out of order. So FCC's first goal was in the 53rd minute. And it came from this sort of action. It started with FCC in possession on the left-hand side. The ball was shifted all the way to the right channel to Miles Robinson, who dribbled forward and then played Orishano on the right touchline. And immediately when he receives the ball, you see his intent. It was immediately to attack the middle. He dribbles back and he dribbles into the middle, ends up shifting the ball back to the inside, and it goes all the way back over to the left. But you see Orishano then stays in that central attacking channel. You see Kevin Kelsey make a good run to show for the ball at the top left corner of the box. Obi plays him. The defender steps in and knocks it away, but Big Kev stays with it, knocks it to Lucho. Lucho plays this entry pass to Dado, who is also showing, again, in zone 14. Dado does a nice little body fake and attempts to take it on the half turn and is absolutely cleared out by the defender, hammered, but the ball falls to Luca, dead center, and he just slots it home. Justin, the fluidity of this tack, just the way that the pieces moved around, it's just like, and this action of those wingbacks being able to come inside was so key.
It was very, very key. And, you know, when we look at it, we're probably all thinking, why is Orishano in the position he's in? Normally we expect our wingers to be way out wide, right? But I feel in this instance, he done the right thing. He got in the right position, and it was a great ball, great through ball. And what I like about him is his timing of his running. You know, he didn't just stand there. It was great timing that he done. He watched the ball build up. You could see him slowly walking into that space. And as soon as the ball reaches Lucho's foot, he's off. And I think it was a great finish. I mean, got cleared out Venezuela, but what a finish by Oriano, and a great position that he picked up there. And I guess if he was on the left-hand side, we don't see him in them positions often. But when he's on the right-hand side, I felt in this game, we saw him pick up them positions very, very often, which really helped the offense.
Yeah, when he's on the left-hand side, even if he dribbles inside, he's constantly trying to get back on his left foot, which means even if he stays inside, it's more in that wide left channel. It's not central. It is just not as a natural place to be. And it just adds fluidity to the attack. The other thing I love is you see the fact that Luca is in the middle there allows Big Kev to check out wide, right? He doesn't have to be the focal point in the middle. You saw when the ball shifted over to Brett Halsey on the left, you saw Ian Murphy make a little underlap run to the corner, which drew a defender out a little bit. And you just see this sort of fluidity when you see these pieces start to move around and players forming around them and taking their space. I don't think it is going to be a normal thing that'll work all the time. If you look at this goal in specific, when you freeze the ball, when Big Kev is receiving it and you look at the TFC defenders, it is hilarious. They're all surrounding the ball like a cluster of U8's team. There's like, there's like 7 TFC defenders in like a 10-yard box there. And I'm sure Herdman, their coach, was probably going mental. But I think the thing about it is TFC was trying to defend so aggressively with their outside backs, Marshall Ruddy and Spicer. And these players were not adept at following a Brett Halsey or a Luca Orishano into those central channels. They didn't know what to do with their body position. They ended up ball chasing a bit. And so that part of this caused them so many problems. And you saw it again. FCC's second goal came just minutes later. And this wasn't build-up play. It was a bad back pass. But again, it's Spicer, who is not wide. He's defending in more like a center back. The ball is passed to him and he's not sure what to do with it. That's not a normal position for him. So he lets it go through. And it looks to me like he thinks he's going to like let it roll towards his own keeper,
Yeah,
jog back
100%.
there, knock it back to Sean Johnson, keep the possession. But you just see Orishano just explode forward,
Pace.
get on the wrong side of him. And then because he's on the right, his first touch is right at Sean Johnson, right at the center of the goal. And he elects to shoot when I was like, no, lay it off to Kevin because Big Kev was wide open on the edge of the box. But luckily, Orishano does what we say you have to do. Put it on frame, put it low and hard, force the goalkeeper to make a save. Johnson makes a really good save, but it falls right to Kevin Kelsey, who just makes no mistake. And just like that, a game that was 1-0 is 2-1, and we're flying in the Queen City, Justin.
That was a great finish by Big Kev there. You see his shape his body up to open the ball up and put it in the opposite corner. But no, what I like about it is obviously Orishano, the way he's so aggressive on that. He's high up the field, and you're thinking normally on the right hand side, either with Powell, Yedlin, or Housey, they're not that high. They're not that high up. But because Orishano is so attack minded, he's already up there with the forwards. And I like the fact that he didn't give up. Some, I would say, even forwards in that position would probably give up thinking, the defender's going to play this back here. But he showed great pace, great determination. And I think I was thinking he's going to shoot here. But it's good that the keeper made a save. And then, Big Kev was able to just put the ball in the back of the net, which was great. And just like that, Cincinnati were behind and then they're ahead. It's just a quick transition.
Yeah. Good for FC Cincinnati that Luca Orishano is so little, because if not, the Bengals might be recruiting him for a pass rusher. Do you see the way he dipped his shoulder and got in behind Spicer? I loved it. It was awesome. But here's something we need to talk about defensively, because you talked about it when you talked about you switching sides and how different it is to switch sides of the field and play. Orishano spent the first 25 minutes of this match playing on the left and forcing Spicer, who is a left-footed player, to come inside on his favored left foot. And it's almost like he was forcing him to the center of the pitch. And I'm thinking, it was driving me nuts. I'm thinking he's left-footed, force him down the line. But I'm like, okay, fundamentals, he's being taught, force the guy to the inside where you have help. Okay. So then he moves over to the right. And I'm thinking, oh, this will be great. He'll force him inside. At this point, Spicer had already been shifted over there. So I'm like, this will be perfect. He'll force him inside now onto his right foot. But no, he continues to force Spicer, this time down the line, onto his left. And it got me thinking, I wonder if because of him playing as an inverted winger for his young career on the right side, if he is just used to playing left foot forward defense, forcing that player to the outside, 100%. Like when he presses and things. So that's what he's doing regardless of where he is on the pitch. And I think it showed that, in the 37th minute, there was a 1v1 defensive moment with him and Spicer in the middle third, and he shows Spicer the line. And Spicer just blows by him, doesn't even make a move. He just dribbles it down the line, and he forces he crosses to Marshall Ruddy on the opposite side of the pitch, and Marshall Ruddy comes inside. That's the one where he has that little toe poke that came off Obi's shoulder and went out for a corner. Could it be that he's just comfortable with left foot forward, and how long he's a teenager, he's a kid, and he's only playing defense for the first time this year. How long will it take him to get comfortable, do you think, being able to shift his body and be like, okay, I actually can show to the right or to the left, depending on what player that I'm defending? I need an exact number of training sessions, Justin. Tell me, like 7 training sessions. I'm just kidding.
No, I can't. I'll be honest with you, to the end of the season.
Probably.
No, it's going to take a little while. I don't think that's in his natural DNA. So to have to try and coach him now at the age he's at, I would say it'll take a little while. Let's just put a little while. It's not going to be a short-term fix. Let's just put it that way. I just feel he defends like that also because probably that's his dominant foot and the way he likes to probably tackle, and he feels stronger defending in that way. And, as you said, Coach, it's a new role for him. He's not used to defending. And I feel we can see that in him when he attacks, even when, he scored and set up the next one, although it was a save. You can see how attack-minded he is. I think he's more attack-minded than Barrial was. And Barrial was a decent defender. He wasn't the best, but he got better. But I think with Orchano is he is really, really attack minded, and I just feel it to try and teach him now how to defend will take a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
Justin, one of the things that they teach you as a coach is when you need to give negative feedback, they say sandwich it, the sandwich method. Give positive feedback and then negative, and then sandwich it with
yeah,
positive. So we talked about a couple really good moments from Orshano. And now I want to talk about some of his defensive lapses before we get to the good stuff again,
yeah, yeah.
because to my eye, he was darn near dreadful defensively at moments.
Mhm.
I already talked about, that moment with Spicer where he just toasted him down the line. He got beat another time in the first half like that, where Spicer tried to chop it back a little cutback lane to Insigne and just missed him. Another moment where my heart was in my throat. He was culpable, I think, from some of the set piece goals that we'll talk about in a little bit, where it was like the reason why they ended up with a set piece is because of him. But he constantly seems to fall asleep at that back post. So I want to talk about the TFC penalty kick in the 83rd minute, because you
Mhm.
think, oh, Robinson brought him down. They didn't get a good enough pressure on Insigne to play that ball in. But if you watch this play, what happens is FCC has possession. Morishano makes a run forward on the left, and Lucho has the ball, and Lucho tries to get it to him and turns the ball over. So Orishano's caught forward. That's going to happen. But as
Mhm.
a wing back, not a winger, you have to continue to work back quickly. Even if you don't have the energy to do a full
Mhm.
sprint back, you need to continue to work back. And if you watch this goal, this PK call, and you just watch him, that turnover happens at the 82-15 mark. And it's not until the 82-30 mark that Insigne floats that ball into the box for Derek Etienne Jr. And
Mhm.
Orishano is still not back in that 15 seconds to define him. He's just kind of moseying back. So, basically the ball, TFC has the ball after Lucho gives it away. They work it central to Insigne. He spots Etienne Jr. just standing at the back post and just floats the ball up to him. Etienne
Mhm.
tries to lay it across for Prince, and Miles got the wrong side of Prince and has to kind of like drag him back, trying to jump around to get ball side, and gives away the penalty. Justin, am I being too harsh on Orshano here? Is there more things, did Miles Robinson not defend well, did not drop well with Prince? He let Prince get ball side of him. Like, what else am I not seeing here?
No, I don't think you're seeing it right, Coach. I feel that in them instances you have to burst the gut to get back in. I know you're attack minded, but in a lot of situations in this, you do have to burst the gut to get back. Yes, I feel was it Murphy in that instance should have got back and looked over his shoulder. He's in back, but he should have checked his shoulder also because that's his man. But I feel if Orjano made that call and got back in, or even told Murphy that there's someone on his shoulder, I think he could have checked his shoulder a lot
That's
quicker
the
because if
thing.
he
Yeah.
frees it, he needs to shout to say there's someone on you. But at the instance, you saw Robinson and Murphy both have two players, so their minds fixed on them and the ball. But I feel if Orishano gives you a call that there's someone on your shoulder, you then take a quick glance, and I feel that Murphy would have taken a step back, which might have saved, the ball going across. He might have been able to intercept it, but I feel that Murphy was fixed on that player ahead of him, watched the ball, got the player, that's my man, and didn't see over his shoulder where he probably thought Orishano should have been, and that's where he should have been, but unfortunately didn't get back in time, and it's a PK.
Yeah, so I want to ask you about this because I'm curious about like what as a defensive unit you would be coached to do. I'm going to talk about how I would coach my team,
Mhm.
but different coaches have peculiarities. So I'm not saying this is right or right all the time, but
Mhm.
I would rather Orshano get back and defend. But you're right. If
Yeah,
he
100%.
cannot or does not, he has got to give a shout to Murphy. What you see is you saw Matt Miazga chase Insigne into the midfield. So Matt Miazga was not there anymore, right? So now technically what needed to happen is a player from Toronto made a run from the midfield towards FCC's back line to fill in for where Insigne dropped off the line. And that was
Mhm.
Buka's man. Buka did not follow him. So because Matt was so far out, Buka really should have dropped into that back line and become that third center back, following the player he was marking anyway. But if that doesn't happen, if Orshano gives him a shout, then what I would see happening is Orshano says, Murphy left shoulder, Ian left
Yeah.
shoulder. Ian takes a look.
Yeah.
He says,
Mhm.
Miles, drop. Miles drop 2 steps, whatever. And what you would see is Murphy and Miles, knowing they have 3 players to defend there, they would take a step back or 2 steps back into the box, basically saying, we can't man mark these players here so tightly. We're going to have to close on them when they receive the ball because we have too many. And that would allow that ball floats into Derek Etienne Jr. and Murphy goes to defend it in the air. Doesn't even have to wait until it comes down because he has that space now. If, instead of playing Derek Etienne, they play it to that midfield player who had made the run forward to his feet, then Murphy closes on him there. But you would drop that defensive line like a step or two, and that would make all the difference. But Orshano's a kid. And that communication piece, as you know, is one of the hardest things to teach a player, because players are generally pretty good at just like reacting to things as they happen. He's played enough small-sided games to where he knows how to defend just like in a vacuum. It's when you have to start moving these pieces around on the field that it becomes really difficult for a young defender or a young attacker who's trying to be taught to play defense, right?
Yeah, right. And I framed it just as Insigne had the ball, and I guess the defense have done the right thing. Okay, Orishano is getting back in. He should, sprint in to get in and say, right, Eric Etienne is his man. He's got him. Even if he's on the outside of his shoulder, he still has him. But I feel the defense has done right. You've got Insigne with his head down, with a great player he is. He's going to pick a pass. As soon as he picks up his head up, he played that pass. And looking at it again, I don't feel Murphy had time to react, to feel like, okay, there's someone on my shoulder, because he is fixed on the player in front of him. So I feel, after freeze framing it again and watching it again, I feel like Orishano should have got back. But, a call does help, because I feel that Murphy could have dropped in that instance and been able to clear that if he had a call a lot earlier than he did. And I mean, at the end of the day, Insigne puts the ball perfectly well. Do you know what I mean? Like, some other players might not have been able to do that, but with someone like Insigne, you have to mark players. You have to mark. With players like that, you have to mark in the box.
Yeah, and if it was just that goal, you could say, oh, Luka got caught forward. He didn't work back kind of quick enough. It was the 83rd minute. You'd forgive him. But it's not just that goal. In the 88th minute, when the game was tied 3-3, Orishano lets the wing back on that side, Franklin, get in behind him and hit a volley that goes just over the bar that could have made it 4-3 to Toronto. And, it's just over and over. That backside defense is where Orishano really struggles. He defends it like a winger, which is, as you know, because you've played outside back with wingers like this in front of you, then it's kind of jog back. And if there's a guy kind of near you, you'll go get him. If the ball comes over there, then you go run after it. You don't run to get back in defensive position in case the ball goes over if you're a wing. And that is what Orishano needs to really learn. Justin, let's take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about FCC's struggles to defend set pieces and how they were able to generate chances even without Lucho Costa getting on the scoreboard. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness company that helps everyone get and stay active. They have helped players like Nick Hagland and Brandon Vasquez with their physical therapy and strength training needs during the offseason. And currently, they are still running their ACL injury prevention screen program, which you should definitely ask about. It was piloted by Nick and Brandon, and I highly recommend it. Learn more at gobeyondexercise.com. I also want to let you know that this episode is unofficially brought to you by the barrel-aged red velvet cake out of Untitled Art. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It is cake in a can, so smooth, super boozy, very sweet, with loads of chocolate. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. If you want to talk to me about beer or soccer, you can always get in touch with me on the socials at FC Cincy Tech Talk. If you have a question or comment, you can get at me there or send me a note to feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. All right, Justin, Mike Prentice wanted us to talk about set pieces. And I think it's a good place to start our second segment of the show here, because FCC gave up 3 goals, which is a lot for this team. But to my eye, they looked pretty great defensively, at least from open play. So let's talk about TFC's opening goal, because it happened pretty early on in the 25th minute, I think. And it's a straight up header off a corner. And I watched this, and other than the fact that Orishano kind of falls asleep and lets his runner get in behind him, and Murphy ends up having to put the ball out for a corner, other than the ball going out for a corner, which you're going to concede corners, I didn't see a ton that they did wrong here. So
No, I don't
Insigne
either.
floats the ball in. You see, really interestingly, it's pretty much straight up man-to-man marking. You have
Yeah.
Buka on the near post, and you have Obi zoning at the near post. Everyone else is pretty much man-to-man. Dado is matched up on Davy Flores. The ball is swung in, and Flores starts going towards the goal, has to retreat and kind of flick a header and somehow squeezes it in at the far post. Justin, it was Dado's man. Do you fault him for this, or is this just like this is a goal that, is going to happen once a season?
No, that's the goal that happens one season. I mean, even that header, he's going away from the goal. So I feel there's not much you can do as a Cincinnati defender. You've got your man. He's not got across you. He's not out jumped you. The ball is actually going away from the goal. So, the TFC striker is actually, or whatever number he is actually moving away from the goal. And I would say it's an unbelievable header. Why? Because to generate power and I would say the angle to head that into the bottom corner, I would say you have to applaud him. I can't see anything wrong in what the defense has done, because I don't think you can do anything more
Yeah, I
in that
think if I'm
situation.
coaching in that film room, what I'm talking to Dado about is I'm saying that I'm like, look, you got beat with a fantastic header. It's not going to happen. If you want to really try to perfect your set piece defending, then the thing to do is to perfect it before that ball is ever swung in,
Yeah.
because he's beat with Flores's first step. And once he's beat with that first step, he's trying to recover to get goal side, which means then when Flores puts his foot in the ground to go backwards to get the ball, Dado has to adjust from that. He's just reacting as opposed to defending proactively. So if you can stay goal side before Flores ever makes that darting run, then you can get leverage, and maybe he still makes that header, but you can probably get more solid contact with his body while he's going up for it. But again, that's just me as a coach, like nitpicking, saying like, Dado, you did pretty well here, son. Don't fault yourself, but continue to get better. TFC had another chance right at the death of the first half, which was, again, it's a set piece, which I think is interesting, but this was around the midline. And what happens is Insigne checks back short to get the ball because it's so deep. They're not going to just swing it in. They don't pass it to him, though. They pass it up the line to Longstaff instead. And Insigne just runs forward and isn't tracked. Dado kind of runs towards the ball and away from Insigne. Buka is late to react to Insigne's run. Murphy has to step onto Prince, who's checking. The ball goes to Prince, and then Prince lays it off to Insigne right inside the box, and he gets a free shot from 15 yards out that luckily he hits right at Roman. And so, again, Justin, we're talking about not terrible set piece defending, not like some systematic bad thing. It's just they just turned off a bit because the free kick was deep, and you just can't turn off in this league for set pieces. You get scored on when that happens.
You do. You normally get scored on very quickly, especially in this league. It's a set piece game, and we've been talking about set pieces with the team for the last couple of podcasts, haven't we, Coach? I feel like
Yeah.
we're getting we've been nervous, haven't we? Set pieces, I would say. Me personally, I feel like we've conceded, one too many from set pieces. But especially talking about this instance, Coach, I just feel you cannot, especially in this league, and I think in any game, switch off in set piece situations.
Yeah, and the TFC's other goal, it was the second goal on the night. The third one we'll talk about was another set piece, and another different way. Again, it's not the same problem. This time it's a corner kick, but it's a short corner of sorts, right? And so the ball is played not into the box. It's not a short corner like a 2-yard pass. It's like a good 15 or 20-yard pass.
Yeah.
But it's taken to the near side to play a little 2-man game. And what I saw here is, again, this mental being tuned in to know what's happening. So you have Lucho Acosta defending the short corner. So Insigne takes the corner to the near side to Petretta, who's a center back, and Lucho runs to close down Petretta. Petretta just kind of like sidesteps him and plays it back to Insigne. And now you see the domino effect. Obi has to run over and try to close out Insigne. Insigne plays a little give and go inside the box with Osorio, who gets the ball back. Gives the ball back to him. He's at the edge of the 6, and he plays a really just low, hard square ball that bounces off Ian Murphy and into the net. What did you see on this short corner, Justin? Is this again? Is it Orishano not closing out? Was it Obi's individual defense was pretty bad here? Do you fault Murphy at all for this own goal?
I just think no one really took ownership of who to go to the ball. I see that Obi was pointing, but I don't know if he's pointing to say he's going to go to the ball, or if, to cut the man off for Lucho to cut him off, or to tell Oriano that he's going. You just don't. I don't know what he decided, but I feel like he made the decision too late. And I feel with Insigne, you can't let him come inside. I think if you force him, you change your angle of approach to force him to the byline, away from your goal, not inside. I feel you have stand more of a chance. But I feel there's I always call it communication, a communication breakdown between, I would say, the three of them, because I feel that Lucho doesn't need to chase that ball. I feel if he half chases it to cut the pass off to Insigne, put Orishano comes to the ball, and Obi stays in his position with the man there, I feel that you handle that situation a lot better than they did. But I mean, I guess you can't fault Murphy, because I feel like he's just literally reacted, just tried to get in front of the marked his man, tried to get in front of him, and it's just bounced off him. I just feel that the error started in the corner.
I don't fault Murphy at all, not even a little bit. He actually has really good defense there. He's goal side. He has leverage. Like, his man is not scoring. The only way that ball goes in is if it pinks off him, which, unfortunately he did. I think you're totally right with Lucho Acosta chasing that ball. I think Obi is not going to, I think these three, Lucho, Obi, and Orishano, are all going to be a little bit embarrassed. But I think maybe mostly Orishano. And the reason why is I was laughing when I was watching this replay trying to figure out, because he does that thing that people who don't know what to do, where he's like standing at the edge of the box and he looks like he's dancing. He's just like hopping up on his toes. He's like, I don't know where to go. Should I chase the ball? Should I drop? And he's just like kind of stands there, and the ball's like ping, 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 ping. And it's a goal. And he hasn't moved out of his 1 yard by 1 yard box that he's dancing around in. So I think he'll be a little bit like, guys, let's not focus me. Hey, have you seen Obi's 1v1 defense, guys? Let's talk about him. Because
it's jump from one side to the other. I don't know where to go, side to side. Let me do a couple side jumps.
Now, Justin, I don't want to belabor this point because we've talked about it a lot, but I just want to mention offensive set pieces, because I was going crazy. And I want to ask you this: as a defender, if your opponent has Ian Murphy and Miles Robinson both listed at 6'2", Matt Miazga listed at 6'3", and Kevin Kelsey listed at 6'4", those four players up on a set piece, are you thinking like, man, I hope they swing this ball into the box and don't try to shoot from a bad angle at the near post and pick out the top corner? Because it seems like that's what Luca Orishano and Lucho Acosta wanted to do every time.
Coach, I don't understand. I mean, I see we concede a fair too many goals from set pieces, but I don't see us scoring that many set pieces when I feel that we're a team that should be scoring set pieces. I mean, you've just listed the height and some of the players we have in the box. I don't know why we just don't put the ball in the box and let them attack it. I feel okay, around the box, you're going to have your players to shoot. But I feel in certain situations, coach, a lot of the time, put the ball in the box in dangerous areas. We've got the players that can do the delivery. They've shown how capable they are. Put the ball in the right areas and let them big guys attack the ball. And surely we'll score more goals than we haven't at this stage of the season.
Let me ask you this about the locker room dynamic, because this is one I have no insight in, because you have an Argentinian captain, number 10, Lucho Acosta, taking set pieces. You have a young Argentinian playmaker, left-footed wand of a foot, and Luca Orishano standing over these set pieces. At what point does Matt Miazga, because we all know Matt is not shy about sharing his opinion, at what point does he go to Lucho and Luca and be like, look, guys, if I'm going to run up here from center back time after time, you better give me a chance every now and again to get on the end of one?
He's probably telling them every game. But when it comes to the game situations, coach, the minute they're confident that, they're thinking, right, I can score from here. So I'm sure as Miles Robinson and Miazga are running back, I'm sure they're giving the players a few choice words, because I know I would be. So they've definitely been told. The funny thing is probably in training, they're working on set pieces to get the ball in the box. But when it comes to a game situation, coach, you know how it is. Players do their own thing. They have their own creativity. They have the belief that they're going to score from anywhere. So, if one of them was to pull it in the top corner, who are we to say they should cross it? But at the minute, they're not going in the top corner, and sometimes they're not going on target. So I feel we need to put the ball in the box and create more chances.
And I will say, because I think a lot of people who haven't coached at a really high level, when you're coaching kids, you might tell a kid, like, cross this ball, you're not shooting it, cross it. At the pro level, even at the college level, at any high level, to limit a player's creativity by saying, I don't want you shooting this ball anymore, it can be really detrimental to a lot of situations,
Yeah.
because you want them to feel from the angle, the way the wall is. If the wall is maybe just 2 inches too far, maybe they didn't set the wall up with the tall guy on the edge and there's a short guy on the edge and you think you can bend it over his head. You
Yeah.
want them to notice these things
Mhm.
and have that problem solving ability. I think the problem is it's got to set in at some point, because I'm sure Noonan is saying all the time as well, like, hey guys, let's not shoot everyone. Let's swing some of these in. I'm sure Matt, Miles, probably not Ian Murphy. He's probably just content to just be quiet and
Yeah,
let
he's just
Matt
chilling. Yeah,
Miles.
yeah, it goes.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Kelsey, he's a teenager, but he's 6'4". I wouldn't be surprised if he's by, hey guys, lob one up here for me. Let me go get it. But it's got to set in at some point, and you got to say, like, two things. Number one, we can't shoot every one of these. Two, when we do put it into the box, we got to give our guys a chance. It seems like they hit the near man, the front man, so often. And what I see happening here is they're trying to get that delivery so perfect. They're trying to whip it in with top spin, so it goes over top that first defender and then dips for the FCC players to be able to get on the end of. I think when you have such a height advantage, you don't need to be that perfect. You don't need to whip it in with such pace. You can just kind of fling it into the box as long as you don't get close enough to where the goalkeeper can get it. And I think that needs to set in, and they need to do that every once in a while. Jared Red Squad got in touch and wants to talk about team chemistry. Jared thought that maybe the injuries actually has led to better team chemistry. And I don't know that Jared means that, like, a player is hurt and so it's good to remove them. Like, he might mean simply all the different players having to come in and figure out to play together. And Jared also wants to know if this team really is tied down on a performance based on whether Lucho Acosta is good or not. And I would say in the past, Jared is right that absolutely this team is tied to Lucho. This was the first match where I thought, wow, Lucho really was not effective in the final third, and FCC still went out and scored 4 goals. And I think the reason why we've seen it, and we've touched on it a little bit, is it's this fluidity in attack. Justin, we didn't get to talk about St. Louis at all because of me getting COVID, but FCC goals there were all scored in different ways, based in large part on FCC's ability to move their players around the pitch. We already talked about 2 FCC goals, both of which you could argue, because of those wingbacks coming inside, were about that fluidity. I want to talk about FCC's third goal here, because it was a thing of beauty. If you go back and watch, starts with a throw in, all the passes, all the movement. So I'm going to go kind of in depth here explaining. Listeners, I would encourage you to go on the highlights and watch this third goal from as early as it'll let you, and just watch where all the players end up. So it's the 79th minute, and I'm going to start with Miles Robinson on the ball. You see Buka make a run that I love, because he darts up the left seam. And what that does, you see him look over his shoulder, see Lucho wanting to come into that space. So he moves out of that space, and then Lucho drops in. Miles plays Lucho. Lucho lays it off to underneath to Obi on the other side. Obi touches it forward to Orshano, who is in the left half space. Now, he was playing on the left side at this point. So you already start to see the different players moving around. Lucho overlaps to the wide area. So now Lucho is more where the left wing would be. But Orshano ignores that run, doesn't force it to Lucho, and instead plays it wide left to Ian Murphy. So if you're keeping track now, you have Ian Murphy in the left back spot. Orshano dropped in as like a central number 8, because he's pretty deep at this point. Buka is pushed high like a right-sided number 10. Lucho is in the left half space like a left wing or a left-sided number 10. The ball goes back to Orshano, who switches the play to Miles Robinson on the right, who immediately moves the ball to the right touchline to DeAndre Yedlin. And then Miles Robinson underlaps towards the corner. And you see, again, just watch the Toronto defenders take a step when Miles makes that run. That allows DeAndre Yedlin to attack the middle, and Yedlin plays the ball back to Buka, who is in the middle. Buka finds that quick switch back over to the left to Orishano. Quick 1-2 with Lucho Acosta at this point. He rounds the corner and he's running into the box with the ball. Little scoop pass towards Santos, who receives, looks to try to get off a shot, hesitates, shows really great patience, dribbles to his left, gets absolutely hammered. Probably would have been a PK other than the ball falls to Luca Orishano, and then he just slots it home like, oh, this is how we drew this play up from the beginning. It was a pretty incredible team goal, and all of those center backs moving around. The only two outfield players who didn't touch the ball were Matt Miazga, center back, and Kevin center. Everybody else, midfielders, outside players, outside center backs, all touch the ball, moving all over the place. It was pretty awesome to watch, at least for me, for a soccer nerd. I was like, this is some like Man City stuff here.
That's what I was about to say, Coach. Unbelievable team goal. The passing, the movement, like you say, the way the players interchange. You saw on one side Murphy was making the running behind. You see when the ball switched, you see Miles Robinson make the running behind, and you see that when you freeze frame it in certain instances in this play, if people are watching it as they go back, what I like about it is that even though these players were out of position, they're still in the right position to counter press if they was to lose the ball, but they wasn't, and they was also in great positions. You see Orishano there by the referee, where I freeze framed it just before he picks up the ball to play to dribble and pass with Lucho, is that he's in a half space where no one can mark him. Okay, you got lucky that the defender didn't intercept the ball, but all in all, Coach, what a great team goal. It's good to see Santos come on, be a bit creative. I would say a good tackle and good theatrics there. But what a finish again by Orishano. What a finish, and what a way to cap off a good team goal, Coach. What it's hard to talk about that because it was just such a great goal.
There's so much there. There's not like one play you can say.
Team goal of the season.
Yeah, and there was that's what I loved about it. There was no moment of magic where you're like, wow, this, like Lucho Acosta dancing past these three defenders, or look at this pass that unlocked. It was literally moving the ball left to right, back to left, and just waiting for that opportunity. It was so good. SEC's fourth goal, talk about Sergio Santos, wasn't quite as pretty, but still showcased a ton of fluidity because Sergio Santos dropped way deep on the left to link play. And because he dropped left, Yamil Assad, who had come in at that point for Luca on the left, pushed higher into the half space. Santos played a square ball to Buka, and Buka flicks it forward to Assad. So again, now you have Assad dribbling forward. Santos is behind him. Buka is behind him. Lucho and Kelsey are ahead of him. Lucho curls out to the left, and Assad finds him. Lucho cuts inside of his defender, has Kelsey and now DeAndre Yedlin both making hard runs into the box. Buka and Assad trailing the play. And then, of course, Sergio Santos just working his way up the field. Lucho flicks the ball up over the defender to Assad as Assad runs by him, and it gets tangled under his feet a little bit, but here comes Sergio Santos, and he just finishes at the far post, and it's so funny. You watch that play back, and you just watch Santos. He never quits on the play. He drops into the defensive third, makes a play on the ball, good pass, and then just goes all the way up the sideline, one-touch finish at the end. It's, again, like they drew it up that way to begin with. It's like a hook and lateral or a Statue of Liberty NFL, I don't know, trick play. It was kind of incredible.
He didn't even break his run, Coach. He just run straight, the same pace, the same speed the whole way, and just finished it off. What a finish.
I know. And it couldn't help happen to, I feel like, a guy who needs that more. To have those two goals. He had a tap in the 100%. Last match. And then to come and, have this goal here, and just the way he never quit. Love that. Love all the fluidity. Justin, let's hit another break and then come back for the mailbag. It is that time in the show when I thank all of you for tuning in today. Thanks for watching or downloading or listening online, however you get in touch with us. And thanks in advance for spreading the word. How can you do that, you ask? Well, first of all, you can tell a friend about us. Let them know that we're on YouTube now, if that's their thing, where you can listen right in your browser. Obviously, download wherever you get your podcasts. You can also head over to rate and review the show. You can do that in the Apple Podcasts app, or you can go online to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Coach Apple Podcasts. If you want to become a supporter of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, you can do that over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support, and we appreciate that as well. In terms of this show, if you have questions for us about tactics or coaching, or you want a player's perspective on something, you can always get at us on socials or drop us a note in the mailbag. Speaking of the mailbag. All right, Justin. Alex Mendez got in touch and says, this one's for me. I'm going to let you sit this one out, Justin, because Alex is asking about numbers. Alex wants a breakdown of progressive passes in the final third
The
because
XGs.
yeah, right. He feels like with recency bias, he sees Buka working better with Obi, but he just sometimes forgets how good Junior was. And so he wants my opinion on this. So just some quick numbers. On a per 90 basis, Buka has 5.33 progressive passes. Last season, Moreno had 4.6. Obi this year has 3.43 and last year had 4.67. So you see, last year Moreno had less, Obi had more. There's more balance there. So Buka definitely takes more of the ball progression than Moreno, which allows Obi to not have to do as much of that.
Yeah.
Buka has 3.94 passes into the final third. Moreno last year had 3.84, almost the same. Obi, again, almost the same, 4.14 this year, 4.32 last year. Final third pass is about the same. Here's the biggest difference, Justin. The attacking third touches. Buka averages 13.2 touches in the attacking third per 90. Moreno only averaged 8.64. Obi last year was at 9.13 and this year is at 8.59. So when we talk about Buka working better with Obi, for me, than Junior, it's not about Buka being a much better player. It's a Buka works better with Obi because Buka is more suited to being in the attacking third, and
100%.
Obi is more suited to sitting as a defender and clarifying those roles, just allowing Obi to sit and ball hunt a little more. And we talked about the little creative run that Buka helped by freeing up space for Lucho. Those are things that Junior Moreno never did. Not because he wasn't a good player. He just wasn't that kind of offensive-minded player, Justin. So there's a quick rundown. Here's a question now for you, because I don't know about this one. Gary's Army got in touch and wants to know how Matt Miazga will repay Roman Celentano for that own goal last week. Justin, do you have any specific stories of huge mistakes on the field, like Matt Miazga's own goal, passed it straight into the net, ruined Celentano's clean sheet? Do you have any specific stories about players having to do something to make it up off the field? Have you ever scored such a fine own goal?
I haven't. I've not even heard of. I feel like defenders and strikers have that between defenders and goalkeepers, as we're still part of the same unit. We kind of understand. But no, I don't feel he would. I don't think he done anything. I think they're just grateful that they got the result, especially Matt would be. But no, coach, I don't. And I'll be honest, I've scored an own goal. Not that I meant to, but it wasn't as good as that. I'll tell you that for free.
not as good of a finish. One touch right down the middle of the goal right there. Whew, that was you could tell he felt that.
Yeah, you got that. You got that.
We don't need to belabor that point. That was so long ago. That was way back on win number 6.
Yeah, we'll pass that. Yeah.
Here's a good one. Another fun question. Garrett Griffith wants to know, Justin, if you are superstitious as a player, and how prevalent you know of any other funny superstitions as a player. Garrett says he never cuts his hair during win streaks. He wears the same shorts, socks, t-shirt for his indoor games. So he's playing rec ball, indoor, probably, co-ed or maybe over 30s. Sorry, Garrett, I don't know how old you are. If it was me, I'd be playing in the over 60s as a young player just so I can try to keep up. But Justin, I was never superstitious as a coach. I'm a creature of habit, which means win or lose, I'm doing the same things, but I was not like wear the same thing. Did you have any superstitions, even little ones or do you currently?
I don't know. I would like to think I don't have superstitions. But what I feel I've noticed is that when I've ever played and I've had a good performance or the team's played well, I look back to what I'd done prior to that game or prior to, the build up to the game and try and do the same thing, try and keep the same, I don't know, routine. I would say it's a routine. I wouldn't say it's a superstition.
Right.
I think it's a routine that I go through, that I follow every single game, win, lose, or draw. I feel like the only superstition I have is that if I play a game and I have a bad injury, I then throw the boots away. So I guess that's a superstition where if I have a bad game or not a bad game, if I have a bad injury, that I'm out for a little while after I've had the boots for a long time, I throw them away and get a new pair. So I guess that is one, I would say, a superstition. But other than that, no, coach. I just follow a game day routine or a game week routine, I would say.
Yeah, same. Like, so even as a player, when I played, I would put my shoes and socks on the same way every
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But it was more just like a habit of being ready, mentally
You get
prepared
used to
for
it, don't
this.
you? Yeah.
And I suppose where it gets a little superstitious is if things are going badly for me. If I've had like 2 or 3 performances not great in a row, then maybe I change up my routine. But again,
Yeah.
that's more about I'm clearly not ready. I need to figure out something else, some way
Yeah,
to
something
change my
else. Yeah, of
mind.
course.
Do you have any quick stories? Any your old FCC mates? Any TSD mates that you're going to see here soon? Have any superstitions that you can remember? Things hanging in their locker? They have to. I noticed Lucho has like smelling salts or something in his hand that he smells before every game.
Oh
It's like
yeah, I had that. Yeah, I
walking
had that
right up to the
before games.
kickoff.
Yeah.
Again, that's probably more getting ready. But do you have any stories like that you're like, actually, this player, yeah,
No, not really. I guess it's just players that want to come out last in the locker room. That's always quite funny because there's always someone who wants to ruin that. But there's always someone who will literally sit in the toilet until they're the last one out. But
that's a
other
good
than
one.
stories, coach, no. I mean, I guess everyone's in their own routine, got their headphones in, and just ready for the game. So I think the players would need to speak for themselves on their own superstition because I was more focused on the game rather than looking at other people's superstitions. But other than people walking out last in the locker room, I feel that's the only thing I've got
Plus, when you're a
for them
part
in that
of
sense.
that 2018 FCC squad that's running out 24 unbeaten, nobody needs superstitions. You guys are just cruising. I mean, you're just crushing people. Uh,
Yeah,
Last question
that's
here
true.
from Bill Hardy. What's our
Yeah.
thoughts on Yamil Assad? Has Assad gotten enough minutes yet to give you an impression
It's not a
regarding
bad player.
his ability? Because, we saw him got the most minutes he has in orange and blue last week against St. Louis. Other than
Mhm,
that, he's just made an appearance at the very end of almost every match. He
mhm,
came in at the very end of the TFC match, and we thought about him being part of that goal with his running and his ability to move into the half space. Um,
mhm.
I've been really impressed with his ability to combine with
Me as well.
Lucho. We haven't seen him have to defend at all yet. I don't know if he can do that. He's not like a natural wing back. It's not
No,
like the position he's always played. Clearly, that's where Pat Noonan and the coaching staff sees him. Do you have anything that makes you think, Assad should be getting more minutes, or have you seen enough to kind of start to formulate an idea of him as a player?
no, I don't. I mean, liked what I've seen of him when he's come on. I guess he's come on in different situations, different circumstances, and we've not seen him at the start of the game where we've had to see how he's positionally, how is he defensively, how does he cope with certain situations as a starter. But I guess I feel he's fitted into the team. I would say fine at the minute. I can't fault him because of the minutes that he's played. He's played well, so he's linked up well with Lucho. I feel he's linked up well with some of the other players, and you look at him and he's a great substitute to bring in, and it's a good spot from the recruitment team to bring someone in like that.
Yeah.
Yes, left wing back is not his natural position, but he's playing well there, and he's looked like he's played there for years. So I guess until he's tested, until we see more of him in that position defensively, I feel at the moment he's doing a good job.
Yeah, Yamil Assad's like the poor man Jordi Alba, and that the reason why he's on this team is because he's friends with Lucho Acosta. That's Jordi Alba is a fine player in his own right, but
Yeah,
he's there
it's Messi's
because
mate.
Messi wants him there.
Yeah,
Uh,
of
you
course, but
know,
that's fine.
I would say the only other thing I will say about that is that Orshano, I liked him enough playing on the right side, which I was skeptical about. A lot of people were like, he's
Me
always
as well. I was
played
like,
right wing.
whoa.
Let him play right wing back. And I'm like, it's not that simple. I liked him enough over there in this limited sample size where I'd be okay seeing more of Assad on the left and Luca coming in on the
Yeah.
right, especially when you need a goal. Like as opposed to Assad always coming in for Orshano,
Mhm.
maybe in the 70th minute, you bring in Assad for like a Yedlin or a Halsey
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
push Orshano over and then have those two kinds of like playmakers linking in on the left.
Mhm.
What FCC is going to have to figure out, and we don't have to talk about this now, is how do they get width with these wingbacks wanting to come inside at all.
Mm.
Is it overlapping outside center backs? Is it Lucho Acosta or a forward checking wider? They're going to have to figure that out because, like I said, they played very narrow against TFC, and it only worked because the TFC outside backs, I think, were so poor coming inside to defend.
Yeah, terrible.
But Justin, you are going to be in the Queen City. You're coming home.
Oh, wait.
I'm going to say it's home.
Coach.
You're
It's
coming
home to me.
home.
I'm coming home. I'm home.
You're going to be at the match on Wednesday, the Nashville match. Am I wrong about this?
I'm right. You're right there, Coach. I'm going to be at the game. I'm so excited. I'm just nervous, Coach. I'm nervous because remember I said last season I wasn't going to come to the game if they were on a good winning streak because I didn't want to ruin it. That's a superstition also. So now I'm coming to the game. I hope they win because I swear, Coach, I'll be honest with you. If I go to the game and the team loses, I won't come back.
Oh, guys,
I can't do it, Coach. I can't because then I feel I've let the team down just because I've been at the game. But I'm just excited. I'm excited to see familiar faces. I'm excited to see the stadium. I've never seen the stadium. I saw it obviously when I left Cincinnati. I heard about it getting built. Training facility was built when I was there, so I'm excited to see the amazing stadium that it is, see some of the staff there, and just to be part of the fans and just be part of that TKO experience, Coach. I've wanted to experience it for such a long time. Unfortunately, I won't be in the Bailey, but I think next time I come, I'll sit in the Bailey. But
absolutely,
I'm just excited for it, Coach. I really am. I like you said, Coach. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm coming to see what.
I know you want to be in the Bailey because it sounds all fun, but you're a coach now, Justin. You need to sit up high in the nosebleeds like me. So not because you can't afford or don't want better seats, but yeah, you got to see the whole action. You got to get that all 22 look where you see every player on the pitch from the good angle. Folks, guess what? I will actually also be in attendance on Wednesday. So if you see Justin, if you see me, come say hello. We do this show for you. Neither of us are doing this for any other reason except to interact with you and have a little bit of fun, talking some football with one another. So come say hi to us. Make sure if you see Justin, you say like, Justin, I love you on Talking Tactics, man. That way Justin never wants to leave us ever. And Justin, I'm so happy to be recording the show with you. I'm so happy to maybe get to connect and see you in person if we get the chance over this week. Thanks for doing it, my friend.
No, Coach, anytime. Perfect. No, we will make sure, Coach. And what would be great is if we could link up before the game and speak to some of the fans and have some of their questions before the game, after the game. It'll be great, Coach. It'll be great to connect. As you know, we've been talking via this podcast for so long, so it'd be great to connect again, Coach. And it's just great that both of us will be in the stadium and watching. So I guess we'll be able to talk about it in a completely different way because we actually be watching it live with the atmosphere. So I hope I don't get sidetracked from watching the game with all the atmosphere, me watching the Bailey sometimes. But all in all, Coach, it's a pleasure to be on this show, and I hope I see you in the Queen City during the week.
And that is it for this episode of Talking Tactics with Coach Goff. If you want to do us a huge favor, make sure you tell a friend about us, get subscribed to the podcast, and head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Coach Apple Podcasts to rate and review the show. Other than that, thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to my co-host, Justin Hoyt, and thanks as always to producer Charles for making this show audible. I had fun today, and I'm hoping you did too. This is Coach Brad Goff reminding you that soccer is a privilege. So whether watching, coaching, or playing, don't forget to smile.